If you want your child to be a healthy eater, you need to know about the diplomatic feeding style, or what I call the love with limits approach to feeding kids. This is the secret to feeding kids right and will give you the best odds for raising a healthy eater. Hi, folks. If this is your first time here, welcome back. Let's get right into this. There are 3 feeding styles. What are they? Number 1, a controlling feeding style. This is a parent-centered approach to feeding kids. It revolves around rules that the parents set and getting kids to eat. The second one is the indulgent feeding style. This tends to be more of a child-centered feeding style where the parent is reacting to the child's wants and desires and requests for food. We're not going to talk about those today. I'm just giving you a highlight of them. There will be another video, so stay tuned for that. We are going to talk today about the best way to feed kids, and this is according to the research. It is called the diplomatic feeding style, or what I love to call it, the love with limits approach to feeding kids. So why is this style the best? Well, if you look at the research shows that in children, kids tend to eat more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains when they're raised with this feeding style. They have better appetite regulation, meaning they recognize when they're hungry, they stop eating when they sense they are satisfied or when they're full. And then thirdly, this feeding style produces fewer health problems and a healthy body weight. So you might be wondering, what is my feeding style? Am I diplomatic? Am I controlling? Am I indulgent? Well, there are some clues around what makes a diplomatic feeder. And so I want to review how you can adopt this diplomatic style or this love with limits style of feeding your child, because in the world of pediatric nutrition, and as a pediatric dietitian myself, this is considered the gold standard of feeding children. So, to adopt the diplomatic feeding style, the first thing you want to do is have structure with meals and snacks. And so I talk about this a lot on the channel. You can check all my videos. When it comes to feeding kids, I'm always promoting the diplomatic feeding style. This is what I want you to do when you're feeding your own children. So the first step is to set up structure. So what does that mean? It really means a regular schedule of meals and snacks. So schedule meaning timing. So a regular time for breakfast, a regular time for lunch, a regular time for dinner, and regular times for snacks. So snacks aren't willy-nilly when kids ask for them. They actually have a time attached to them. Now, timing-wise, we don't have to be rigid, but we do want to kind of make it within the same time zone. For example, if lunch is at noontime, and you're running late and it's 12:20, and that's okay. So we have like 20 to 30 minutes on each side of the designated lunch time or any meal time for flexibility. So lunch, even though it's 12 o'clock, as long as you're hitting it around 11:30 to 12:30, you're in good stead. But kids need to rely on, anticipate, and predict that meals happen and snacks happen at roughly the same time, day in and day out. The other part of structure is where kids eat. So you want to establish a regular location where you feed your children. So the kitchen is kind of the obvious location, be it at a kitchen table, a dining room table, a kitchen countertop, whatever you have. If you don't have those areas to feed your kid, even if it's on the floor in your main living area, like a picnic, and that is predictable and repeatable, that's okay. The idea is that for children, they are able to anticipate exactly where meals and snacks happen. This builds their security and the predictability around meal times and snack times. Third part of structure, you, the parent, the caretaker, you are in charge of the meal, foods, and the snack foods, meaning you are making the decisions. You are making the decisions about what is served at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and at all your snack times. Your child is not making those decisions. You might give your child a choice, but you are determining what the choices are. Okay, the second part of being a diplomatic feeder is setting boundaries. So these boundaries or limits reinforce your structure. So say you have 3 meals each day. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And lunch rolls around and your child says to you 30 minutes later, "I'm still hungry." A boundary would be, "I'm sorry, but the kitchen is closed right now. We will have snack in an hour," or whenever you're having the snack time. Again, remember, you've set the structure, the regularity of the timing. The boundaries reinforce that structure. It helps you protect the structure and keep it rolling from day to day. So the kitchen is closed is one of my favorite boundaries because it's a nice way to say no. Boundaries are also the no's. So the kitchen is closed right now. We don't have snack until 3 o'clock. Or, "I'm sorry you're hungry and you didn't eat the rest of your breakfast, but we'll have snack in a couple of hours and we can pick something to eat then." So again, boundaries reinforce your structure. Another good one is the boundary of you have to ask an adult before you take food. So this merely puts the adult in the house in charge of food. So it means also that kids can't just go into the pantry and help themselves anytime during the day. They have to consult or ask an adult first. That's another boundary and a good one to set up for children. The third part about being a diplomatic feeder. So diplomatic, the word itself, encourages fairness and justice with food and eating. So allowing your child reasonable choice. Reasonable choice is that third piece to becoming a diplomatic feeder. Reasonable choice means that you are offering your child a choice, an option. So for a young child, I typically say 2 options and keep it within the same food category. So, for example, would you like a banana or would you like a clementine? And the child can make the choice between banana and clementine. Or would you like some yogurt or a piece of cheese? Again, we're keeping that in the dairy category, and the child gets to choose between yogurt and cheese. We know that using reasonable choice with children engages their autonomy, their independence, their ability to make a choice for themselves. And remember, kids of all ages are working towards more and more autonomy as they get older. We also know from research that when kids make a choice, they are more likely to eat what they chose. So that's a win-win. Now, if you have an older child whose brain is more developed and they can anticipate and think through things a little bit better, so a child who's in the 3rd grade and up, you can offer 3 choices. So you might say, would you like crackers or bread or a mini bagel for your snack? So 3 choices. The child gets to choose what they want. Or would you like an apple, a banana, or a clementine? Again, 3 choices, and the child gets to choose which one. Now, of course, when you're offering choices, let's be really practical. only offer things that you have in the house. I don't want you to have to run out and go get ice cream because you offered ice cream or candy and your child chose ice cream and you didn't have any in the house. So keep it reasonable. That's the reasonable part. So reasonable choice. So just to recap really quick, structure, boundaries, and reasonable choice are the 3 keys to becoming a diplomatic feeder or using a diplomatic feeding style. Now let's go over a couple of things to remember if you are embarking on this journey. Number 1, you are always in charge of the food decisions. If you're implementing the diplomatic feeding style, again, that gold standard, the love with limits approach to feeding kids, you are in charge of the food decisions, not your child. I always laugh when parents of toddlers will say to me, I ask my toddler what they want to eat. And I'm like, how's that going? And they're like, well, they always ask for chicken nuggets or mac and cheese. Of course they do. That's what they know. They don't have the brain power or the brain development to be able to say, I've never tried asparagus. I'd like to have some of that for dinner. So remember, you are in charge of the food decisions. The second thing to remember is that reasonable choice allows a child to make a decision and respects their autonomy. It's very supportive in their child developmental stage and maturation. So choice is a good thing for kids. We just don't want it to be an open choice. We don't want it to be, hey, what do you want for snack today? That tends to get parents into a little bit of a pickle. So we want to offer choice that is reasonable, something we have in the house, but then let the child decide and put that on their plate. 3, remember, structure with meals and snacks keeps things predictable in children's lives. And when things are predictable, they feel secure and they trust the adult caregivers in their lives. And this goes for food and feeding too. And then last, boundaries. They are the no's, but they really support the structure and help kids tap into their self-regulation with eating. That's why we see all these benefits of a healthier body weight, fewer health concerns, better food choices. We also see that kids are more active with the diplomatic feeding style as well. So here's the nut. The diplomatic feeding style is the best way to feed children. It helps them grow up to be healthy eaters, eating when they're hungry and stopping when they're satisfied. So if you want to go deeper on this topic, I have a parent program that will help you put the Love with Limits feeding style to practice in your home. It's called the Nourish Child Blueprint. Check it out. I've linked it below. Again, if you want to go deeper, hang out with me here on this channel. I'm all about helping you become a better food decision parent and feeding your child no matter their age. So share this with someone you care about and check out the next video. I'll see you next time.